Today, I want to explore the topic of shadow work because shadow work is one of the most important parts of your own journey, your development, and on the path to finding purpose. So, let's first define what shadow work even is and what the shadow is. So, if you think about yin yang, it's this white part and then there's the black part. And we like to think of ourselves as this only white part, and we only have positive traits. We are only good, and that's how our ego is portraying ourselves. And it's actually quite a delusional state. And when you wake up and when you start to understand that there's more to yourself, that's when the shadow patterns start to come into your awareness. And the tricky thing here is that you've always had those shadows. You've always had those negative traits and you've behaved in negative ways, but somehow you justify all those things and you kind of put them under the rug. And what shadow work essentially is when you start to see and accept that, oh shit, I have all these flaws, I have all these kind of weird fears, and I have all these weird tendencies. And this is when your ego kind of starts to shatter. And the most painful part of shadow work is when you have to surrender your ego because you're so used to keeping a tight grip of the concept and the persona that you think you are. But most people have a self illusion. Most people think that they are better than they actually are if we take all the parts. And I know I've gone through this many times, and I know I used to think that I'm just good and I can do anything, and there was this really weird illusion, and I couldn't see it. I could only see it once I was pointed, and close relationships is a really good tool to kind of bring awareness to these shadows. But for me, it was like, it was so painful to accept that, oh, I have like bad habits. I have like weird reactions and just straight negative traits. And I had to surrender. And it feels kind of like death. And this is what people call ego death. And I think there's multiple levels to an ego death. You can kind of completely surrender and dissolve the ego, I guess. I don't know what that feels like, but I know that ego deaths can be in different stages, and I'm gonna go deeper into this in another video. But the shadow is essentially what's kind of in the background of what the ego wants to portray. So it's the backside of the ego. It's the flip side of the coin, and we all have it. And the point is not to remove anything. That's not the case, and that's also, if you think that's the case, that you need to remove all your bad traits and all the bad things, it's not gonna work. It's kind of like putting a plaster on a infected wound, and at some point it's gonna explode, and then the thing is just gonna be way worse. And this is why some people don't have too big struggles with shadow work, because they've understood and they've probably grown up in a healthy family relationship and healthy dynamics, and that's why they've had an easier time to kind of integrate their shadow into their self. So the point here is to become aware of all your negative traits and all that you have inside of you. You may be mean and you may have selfish tendencies and you all these different negative traits. And once you start accepting them and be like, yeah, actually, that's part of who I am. And sometimes I do that. And that's totally fine. I'm only human. It's part of the shadow part of myself. And the funny thing is, when you start accepting these shadow parts of yourself, and in Carl Jung, this famous psychologist, talk about integrating the shadow. And when you start accepting and you start integrating the shadow in the self, in the ego self also, that's when the transformation can start to happen. And this is where a lot of people fail. At least I think so, because I used to fail in this. You think that you need to remove the negative traits, but actually need to accept them and be like, okay, sometimes I do that. And that's fine. Even like, let's take, for example, drinking alcohol, go and party and just go full on, and even using drugs and stuff. Many people see that as bad and something that you need to remove. But I realized that I thought it was bad. I thought it was only like this thing that it's a kind of addiction and it's a bad habit that you need to get rid of. And once you get rid of that, your life just becomes better. So I tried. I did that for 7 months, and there was a lot of more shadows coming up. And I realized that, oh, this one big shadow was kind of this gate to all the other shadows. And once I started to realize and accept that, okay, it's not about the partying and the alcohol. It's about accepting that it's fine to do. And it can be the same with like porn, whatever the addiction is, if you accept that this is a part of me. But it's also a business to start try to remove things from people's lives. But it's kind of arrogant to think that you could be only light, because there's always going to be a shadow. And only by integrating that shadow, it actually starts to transform into more light. And this is a paradox. It's really hard for the mind to understand this, and you have to kind of go through this and have an experience of really integrating a shadow part into yourself. And then you start seeing like, wow, this isn't bothering me anymore. And that's a sign that you've started to accept and integrate it to yourself. And there will be a really difficult moment on this journey, and you can go really deep depending on what kind of life experiences you have. But one really important thing to remember is that this too shall pass. It's a moment that's gonna go away. There's gonna be a new moment. There's gonna be another down and up and down and up. And sometimes we try so hard to get out of the negative feeling by distracting ourselves and doing all kinds of things because we are afraid to sit with it. And I used to do this, but I learned that the more I dare to feel it, I dare to sit with these anxiety, depression, whatever it is, these things that kind of freeze me, the more I start to get liberated. And that's the whole point. It's this deep paradox that you think that you're gonna drown if you go down the well. And actually, the path out of the well is to dive deeper and trust that it will release itself. And that's how it is. It's kind of, you are in this well and you think that you need to climb up, but it's impossible to climb out of it. And it feels like you're gonna drown if you go down. But what you don't see, and this is another thing, you don't know that you don't know this, when you go downwards, there's pathways to this open ocean or this open lake, and then you get more free. And I wish that someone would have told me this like years ago, like even in school, if we would teach people these things, a lot of problems will kind of take care of themselves. So doing shadow work and kind of start healing yourself from the inside out, it takes a lot of bravery. It takes a lot of courage. And I've made a video recently about courage. You can check it out here. But basically, you want to start small and kind of go at it at a slow pace and build up that kind of muscle. Another thing that's really important to remember with shadow work is that you need to take time off from that. And this might also be like, okay, that's controversial. You need to forget the shadow work at times, and you need to just go and have fun and do something that takes your brain and mind out of the whole concept. Because if it kind of also gets addictive to be in these powerful states that are kind of, they might be negative, they might be difficult, but they still kind of keep a grab of you. And only by also letting go of that and going and doing whatever, partying, doing something fun, doing something that's totally out of the self-improvement and self-discovery phase, that's going to leave room for this exponential growth. Because it's the same as the gym, as always, I tell this, and a lot of other people also. When you train your muscle, it's not in the gym that the muscle will grow. You destroy the muscle in the gym and then it grows in rest. And it's the same with shadow work. It's the same with integrating your shadow parts into yourself and this self-awareness and acceptance. So it's really important to have people around you that you can just go and have fun with and kind of just forget about everything. Go on vacation. And that's actually like weekends are perfect for that. And I try to step into that mode more and more, to have the weekends off and to kind of go and do like this regular people stuff, because that it will give you a certain viewpoint, a new perspective on your own problems and issues and your life and your journey. And it's a breather. And that's really important. And it's exactly what I'm gonna do this weekend. I have a trip with the boys to a cottage, and it's gonna be really good because I've had some deep internal things that I've struggled with and I've overcome some, and it just feels really good to take a short 2-day vacation. So that's my take on shadow work. And I think one last point is that don't try to do it all alone. Like, talk to a friend, hire a coach, join a community, do something where you can share these experiences, because doing these things alone can really mess up your mental health, because then your ego starts to come up with all kinds of weird solutions and scenarios, and it might be like really go into kind of these murky waters. So have the faith in other people too, and have the faith in that the difficult time is there to teach you something, and it's not going to be forever. And the faster you can see what the kind of golden nugget is in that difficult moment, the faster you will get over it. And sometimes it's not about getting over it fast. Sometimes it's about sitting with the thing for long enough to kind of just be like, okay, I'm done with this. I've cleared this. It's over. And then you have elevated to a higher level, to the next level. So that's it for this shadow work blast video. And I hope you have a really nice day, and trust that the process is what's going to take you there. And if you need help, you can reach out to me, and I'll see you in a future video. My name is Mitz, your future purpose, here to help you find more fulfillment, joy, excitement, purpose, passion in your life. See you.